I'm Chelsea Floyd, and I like Progress Texas because it's honest, up to date, and it's current. It's there for me.
And you just said you listen every day.
Yes, I've had a lot of catching up to do because I was a little late to the party, but we are here for it.
It's Wednesday, June 18th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. Rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. One of the most insufferable videos that's ever made me laugh out loud is linked in the show notes. Yes, I'm talking about an excerpt from a conversation between a couple of the worst people on the planet. Those would be Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who was at the time being grilled on Donald Trump's new misadventure in the Middle East by cackling weenie Tucker Carlson. What starts as a pedantic gotcha over the population of Iran devolves as Cruz appears to prematurely reveal an American joint military operation with Israel against that country. Carlson reminds Cruz that the Trump administration to that point had denied such a partnership. So Cruz once again makes ass. But since this conversation, Donald Trump's social media content appears as though the U.S. has indeed declared war on Iran alongside Israel, complete with demands for an unconditional surrender and death threats against their individual leaders. So, this is a party that considers the truth to be a rather flexible commodity, almost to the point of dispensing with it altogether. The situation over there at this point is whether or not the U.S. should use deep earth-penetrating ordnance to destroy Iran's underground nuclear facilities. We're the only ones with those weapons. Back to the U.S., where you've heard that there's a Texas connection to the religious psychopath who murdered Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark and shot Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette last weekend. Reporting here from Eric Killalay at the Houston Chronicle. Turns out this asshole is a graduate of Christ for the Nations Institute in Dallas, an interdenominational charismatic Bible college where he completed a 2-year program in practical theology in 1990. The school is apoplectic, as you might imagine. Statement reads, quote, "This is not who we are. This is not what we teach. This is not what we model. We have been training Christian servant leaders for 55 years, and they have been agents of good, not evil," unquote. Meanwhile, other assholes from Texas are lining up behind the asshole from Minnesota. David Gilbert at Wired says both Alex Jones and Elon Musk are among the right-wing yappers who have been yucking it up while 2 innocent people are dead and their 2 kids are now without their beloved parents. Elon Musk on Twitter wrote, quote, "The far left is murderously violent," unquote. That tweet is still up and has racked 50 million views. Alex Jones, who appears to have learned nothing from losing multiple lawsuits over his lies about the Sandy Hook shooting, tweeted, quote, "Evidence mounts that the reported Minnesota assassin is a patsy who is being framed to cover up a larger false flag deep state operation," unquote, and deja vu, unvarnished bullshit that these guys' followers will gleefully claim as the facts. Meanwhile, the Hortmans' surviving adult children, Sophie and Colin, have publicly expressed deep gratitude for the support shown them by both law enforcement and the community at large, asking others to honor their parents' legacy by embracing kindness, resilience, and compassion. Amazing character as we face a truly monstrous opposition. Several immigration and border notes this morning. Apparently, another Venezuelan man sent to that death prison in El Salvador as a gang member with zero evidence. Alejandro Serrano at the Texas Tribune says lawyers for 28-year-old Pedro Luis Salazar Cuervo say the accusation against him by Texas DPS hinges on a picture that they found of him standing next to a man with tattoos. He has none himself, nor any other gang ties, but nonetheless was on that plane with over 230 other deportees back in March. His lawyers are fighting to have him returned. Meanwhile, very quietly, the state of Texas appears to have given up finally on the ridiculous notion that they could ever have built a wall along the entire 1,254-mile border between Texas and Mexico. The Texas Tribune says they're settling for about 100 miles worth. That's about 8% of it, which has been put up at a cost of over $3 billion of your taxpayer dollars to near zero effect. A complete waste of time, resources, and money. In Travis County, compassion for undocumented people remains strong. Jayla Washington at KXAN TV says the Travis County Commissioner's Court has unanimously passed a resolution to reaffirm the, quote, constitutional and humane treatment of immigrants in the custody of any U.S. law enforcement agency and calling for due process and the protection of habeas corpus, unquote, noting that this resolution has no actual authority over federal law. Travis County Judge Andy Brown says, quote, if all 254 counties in Texas pass something like this, that would send a very clear message to the White House. We here in Texas want to respect the rule of law, unquote. Support for immigrants pops up in a couple of perhaps surprising places here. First, Paula Forbes at Texas Monthly writes on the immigration stories that emerged from the Texas winners at the 2025 James Beard Awards. Chefs Arjab Ezekiel of Birdie's restaurant in Austin and Thomas B.A. of the restaurant Belly of the Beast in Spring talked about their own immigration experiences in their acceptance speeches the other night. Ezekiel just achieved his citizenship in 2023, and B.A.'s parents came to the U.S. from Mexico. B.A.'s win, by the way, is notable in that he is the third Texan of Mexican heritage to win Best Chef Texas in the past 4 years at the James Beard Awards. And in sports as well, Patricia Campos Dominic at MLS Multiplex says Austin FC manager Nico Estevez held court at length when asked by reporters about the situation with ICE deportations across the U.S. Estevez says in part, quote, "People live in fear because they don't know why this is happening to them, what the criteria are, how it can be solved, what other alternatives there are to prevent this type of situation from happening. The government needs to develop an immigration control plan that helps the country but also helps people who are receiving undeserved treatment in order to know what to do. Everyone suffers. The police officers and immigrants can lose their lives or be injured. It has a lot to do with soccer because in the U.S. there are many soccer players whose families arrived in the U.S. many years ago and through hard work and effort have settled in this country and consider themselves fully American," unquote. And there's lots more in the article linked in the show notes. This comes, by the way, as Austin FC supporters became the second in Major League Soccer to unfurl banners at a home match, taking a stance against the escalation of ICE operation in recent weeks during a 2-1 victory over the New York Red Bulls by Austin FC this last Saturday night in Austin, just as No Kings demonstrations across Texas and nationwide were winding down. Kudos to them. Speaking of which, data analysts are arriving at the conclusion that the No Kings events on Saturday officially constitute the single biggest protest event in American history. Will Neal at the Daily Beast says one independent data journalist pegs the total attendance between 4 and 6 million people, which would total at the high end about 2% of the total U.S. population of 340 million, a huge spike even from the massive hands-off rallies and other marches seen in recent months. That massive turnout has sparked interest in a political concept known as the 3.5% rule, which holds that nonviolent movements can succeed in achieving social or political change if at least 3.5% of the population actively participates. So, if you thought about coming out for No Kings on Saturday, but for whatever reason you didn't, definitely think about joining the fun next time because we're almost there, y'all. Political scientist Erica Chenoweth came up with the 3.5% rule, and it's a pretty fascinating idea to dive into. Highly recommended for this crucial moment. As we wind down on this day before Juneteenth 2025, we want to send our very best to Texas civil rights icon Opal Lee, the celebrated grandmother of Juneteenth, who Reagan Roy at CBS 19 in East Texas says will not be participating in this year's Walk of Freedom event as she has been undergoing treatment for an undisclosed medical issue. Again, all of us at Progress Texas send our very best wishes for rest and recovery to Opal Lee, as well as our eternal gratitude. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, which is funded by oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups, all while fact-based independent media outlets increasingly face threats to our funding. While access to those outlets is frequently free, as it is here at Progress Texas, it takes listener support to keep fact-based independent media going. If you've come to appreciate what we do, now more than ever, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks to Norma Jane Lestraco, Scott Lyford, and Sandra Maddox, all of whom have joined the team lately. We appreciate all of you very much. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.